it's your project, so whether you listen to Simon or to Shula, that doesn't matter. It's your choice, and you have to face the consequences of whatever decision you're going to be following anyway. Even if you say, "Oh, Shula said so" or Simon said so, it doesn't matter because it's your project, and you have to face whatever is the outcome.
Yeah, that's why I would try to avoid adding anything that Sula has said into the presentation, so it doesn't get me say she says.
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing is to think about that these two supervisors have different roles.
Yeah.
So Simon's role as a supervisor is on the process. So try to make sure that you meet and your project meet the objectives of this course. Shula's course is or motivation and role is as a subject matter expert. Now she happens to be a professor as well, so she can pretend having that process role, but I wouldn't necessarily let her take that process role and use her as a subject matter expert. And you're trying to develop the game with her as a subject expert advisor and Simon as the process advisor in terms of how to design this. So that's I think that is it is challenging to have two or more supervisors, but I still strongly suggest that you do so. The other groups, if you don't already, if you think there are some with an expert around here, they may be at the college or they may be outside, but someone with the kind of expertise. And if that someone is questioning some of the recommendations you get from the supervisor, that's good. You could think that's bad. Why can't these guys agree up? But you are at the level now that you can't assume that everybody agrees with everything. And getting to know what the disagreement is early gives you a chance to say, what do I believe in and what would I base my work on? Because in the end, it's your decision that is going to give you a pass or a fail in the end of this course. And then that brings us to the next. So Shula said that you should not bring a demo. Now you should work on the architecture.
She didn't say that. She said that it was
too early.
Yeah.
Now what I would say is that you have to keep in mind, as Stein was saying, a demo could be just some paper, it could be some sketches on your Mac. It doesn't have to be on the final architecture. So what Shula is worried about is that you start implementing something on an architecture that we eventually going to see, or you eventually going to see this is not good architecture. But what we are trying to put out here is that we want early demos, not on that final architecture, not whatever, but something visual that will help you and whoever you want to test this idea with. Because as Stein is saying, an idea in here is not worth much.
Yeah.
So what I would like to see is how would the UI of a GA simulation or a GA game look like? What would be kind of the features? Just on paper, just by some drawings.
Yeah.
Is the genetic algorithm, are you going to have real chromosomes, or how are you going to visualize this? And just some ideas there. And until that's on the paper, I think it's very hard to give you feedback. And that you could have done without
programming. The issue there has been like before the first meeting, we discussed like 3 different ways. It was like search. Search itself has like several subgroups. And there was also genetic algorithm and artificial neural network. So in the first part, I had to find out if there was anything from before, because like Sula said, if there are games that contain searches, contain genetic or ANN, then she didn't want that type of game. So that's sort of like trying to narrow down. And now we're like, that's sort of what I'm working on now, whether to go for GA or ANN. And that's why I also haven't made a prototype, because there are like different setups and different content for these 2 algorithms. So I'm trying to like find out how to like combine this with the educational games that exist, like how do people learn, etc. And then trying to find out how to actually teach them the algorithm. And then I have to, that's what I'm sort of working out now, trying to figure out what would be the easiest of the algorithms to implement, in the sense that it's learnable as a game. But the other thing that Sula found on, because I sent her some of the reports I read in regards to machine learning games and gamifying machine learning, was that she found a place where you had, I can show, for instance, HackerRank, which is basically a web page that contains challenges where you have like the code with the, like you have problem statements You have input, output, and then there's like an editor at the bottom where you can select the language, and all you have to do is add your own logic and execute, and then it either works or not, and you see a simulation. There's also another version called AI Challenges, which is basically a JavaScript version where you also add your code, and you can then just test it and get a score in percent of how correct your answer was. So this is like two of the issues, because like or like students said, it could be a game or it could be something like this. But this is like something that is more on the idea phase than the actual potential implementation, because there are some issues around it. For instance, like scoring and such. And like Sula said, that if we're going to go for a solution like this, we have to do more research if it's valuable and if it's actually useful.
Yeah, I fully agree on that. But your challenge is there is no, as I said before, there is no one correct answer to this. But your challenge, if you want to go for that, your challenge is that if you want to do this in the scientifically correct way, and do all the reading and all the exploring all the alternatives and all that, you're going to have that experience that some had in their applied computer science project. By the end of the project, you haven't been able to do any of the work that this course is about, namely to integrate some of the technologies. So there is an ideal world, and that might be a waterfall world in which you do all the study of everything and know everything, and you design it perfectly, and you develop it perfectly, and you deliver it perfectly. But that's not the real world, because we don't know all of these things. So you have to take the risk of just jumping into and backtrack and test other ideas. The thing is that if you didn't go through that process, you didn't learn what you need to do. So I would recommend that you don't linger in this state for too long, because you won't have the time to actually do what you're going to be measured against in this course. But for the master thesis, definitely, right? And I think that in media design, they have this, or one of the lecturers is having, professors is having this expression. You say you have to kill your darlings. I mean, there's some things that you like, an idea that you had, and you're not gonna, you don't have the guts to kill it. You want it to be there, and the idea that the first thing you come up with is the ones that are going to be in the final version. No, that's a bad philosophy, because it means that you're kind of stuck to the initial idea, and you're kind of stuck to the path instead of chose. If you chose one path and you see that it's not going to bring you, you're still going to try to tweak it rather than just say, oh well, that was wrong, I go back. And from a learning point of view, it doesn't matter that the time you spent around all adds up directly to the end. What matters is what you learned from all of these paths and how that influenced the end project. Because in what we will be seeing is that you will, in professional life and in your studies, you will be sometimes taking a wrong direction, but you learn from it. And the important thing is that to use what you learn from it, not what you actually did. You may need to throw away big chunks of code or several pages that you wrote because it doesn't fit in. But the thing is that you haven't written that code or that document, the end result wouldn't have been what it is. So I think you have, if you want my recommendation, I think you would benefit from starting to make in a game, the UI and the whole idea of the game is so important. So if you push that, you've done all these scientific studies up front, I'm afraid that you have too little time to actually integrate anything, and then there isn't much integration to look at.
So my thoughts were pretty much along the same lines, that you have to make some decisions yourself. So don't rely on Sule or Simon to give you the answers. You have to prototype something yourself and get feedback from them on what you already have. You will not have time to kind of do all the background studies and everything before you start doing prototyping. This project is different to your master's project. So in your master's project, yes, you would try to find questions which Schule or the process of learning artificial intelligence course require answers for, and then you will try to build something which brings you the answer. But here you're kind of doing slightly the other way around. You will make some arbitrary decisions that, I will do a 2D platformer, or I will do kind of a coding quest, and you don't need to justify them that much. Then you kind of build something, and then you kind of go through the process of improving it, of making it actually work, right? But you have to make some calls. You currently at the spot where you still have a very broad perspective of what potentially I can do. You have to start narrowing it down. You have to start saying, okay, I'm gonna do this kind of coding quests. They will be for these 2 algorithms, and that's how I see it. That's how I kind of can imagine it. Then you get feedback on how to make it better. But don't kind of try to be too broad at that point, because you're gonna run out of time, and you're not gonna do everything kind of in a perfect way. So some decisions they will be up to you, and some decisions might feel arbitrary at that spot, and that's fine. Because the important part is the process of what you will go through, right? And you will modify some of your decisions, right? But you will not decide at some point, oh no, I'm not gonna do this coding challenges, I'm gonna do this 2 platformer, right? That's the path you're not gonna take, because you have to trim the tree. You have to cut some of the kind of branches off and pick something that appeals to you and kind of aligns with the technologies that you want to use for building this, right? Yeah.
So I think it's very much about state of mind and what you expect and hope to get out of it. And what I would recommend, I think what I haven't talked to Shula, so I might be misunderstanding what you're saying about what she's meaning and what she's trying to explain to you. So I might be missing this, but what it sounds to me is that what Shula is thinking about is the architecture that should be for your master thesis. What I would say is that is something you should worry about in the advanced project work in the fall. Because in the advanced project work, you start by the literature, and then you find something you would like to test, and then that's going to be the basis for the master thesis. What I would say you should do here is say, whatever you develop here, you develop it with the state of mind that you're going to throw it away. The purpose of this course is not to build anything you can use in the master thesis, but you're going to learn something that is useful. And that's very different, because learning something that's useful means that you develop something, and from developing that something, you learn something very different, or you learn this is the way to do it, or it's not the way to do it, whatever. You can port it to a different architecture. You can say this was not the path. You need to find a different path. It doesn't matter what you learn. But this is kind of, so if you say that this needs to be useful step by step, all this is a code till the final end, you don't know where it is. I don't think that, I think you are tightening up too much. Free yourself, saying, whatever I'm doing here, I know right now that whatever code I develop now, I'm going to throw it away. If you have that state of mind, maybe there is a 50% chance that you will get code that you can use. Well, that's a bonus, because you didn't expect it, you didn't drive for it. It's a bonus. Now, if you expect that you can use the code and you find that you can only reuse 50% code, it's a disappointment, because you were thinking that you could do all of it, and now you can do just half of it. So state of mind, and I would say that, think that this course cannot deliver any direct code that you will use in the fall, but you will learn a lot. That will make it so that when you start in advanced work, you know what to do and do it correctly with the architecture, and you read more literature, and in the master thesis, you know exactly what to do. But in this course, there's no way you can do all this scientific work that the advanced project work and master thesis is supposed to cover. That's my kind of my. But sorry for hammering. But as I said at the beginning, you have to make the decision. Yeah. It's your project, and you have to make what you feel is right for this course, for you, for future courses.
I think I'll also have a dual meeting with both Sula and Simon at the same time, so we can all be on the same page. So I don't have told her anything wrong, and so it's like we all know where.
And I think that's a good idea. I think it is a good idea. What you may experience is that they agree more than what you think. What you may experience is that they are not very good at meeting you jointly, in any case, you learn how to continue working with them, which I think is good, rather than anticipating that what you're currently doing is the best way. You test it, and if it's a better way, then you continue doing that. If it turned out to not be productive for any of you, then you say, okay, now I'll meet with you individually.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to make it, or I'm happy to make it hard on you, because these are the types of real world decisions you're going to be having to make and face in not too long. So we are at that level in your let's say professional training that this is reality. There's no one out there knows the correct answer. So you have to try and get as much input as you can, and then make a decision. I think we'll make a break here. We already spent on over 45 minutes. We'll make a break for the final two groups.
And remember that it is you that drives it, right? So even if you meet with both of them and they do tell you things, you take it with your perspective. So you kind of drive the process. At the end of the day, you make the decisions, not them, right? So you can't say, oh yeah, they told me to do this and I've done this. That's not a good way of reasoning. And it will not be a good defense of if you did something which doesn't work or whatever, right? Yeah. So you have to kind of drive it. Take their comments on board, but make your judgment at the end of the day. Yeah.
Before you can just back down, but before we go for break, I just have to say that you probably know me a little bit, but I have from one student feedback, I'm told that I can be a bit scary. So I can be quite direct and strong in my opinion, but I do have the best intentions. So if you feel that I'm a bit hard on you, just tell me. That's not my intention. I'm trying to be clear, but I know that some would find this as quite it's quite scary, because put on the stage and I just start hammering and so I'm sorry for that. That's one of my weaknesses. So I'm trying not to, but I get excited and I just take off. So just tell me, and I'm trying to moderate myself. But it's not that I'm trying to be upset or angry or hammering per se. I just think that there are it's a complex world, and it's important that each one of you take a little bit of leadership on your projects.
Yeah, but it's useful for me because it's like on the one side, I'm not sure like what's actually to be done until now. Like is this the right way I'm going, or am I like too on the research field? And it's like useful for me because then I can coordinate with Zule and Simon and potentially have a joint meeting with them.
Yeah.
So we can all be on the same level on what's actually to be done. Because if I say one thing to Zule and one thing to Simon, it will be like I said, and then it's better for them since Simon is a part of this course and he can explain it more properly, so I don't say the wrong thing to Zule and get all messy and stuff. Because then, yeah.
Good. That's perfect.
Yep,
okay,
good.
so let's have 15 minutes.
Yep.